Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint recap. Today is Thursday, November 14th, coming off of another crazy day of NBA action, and I am here to go over it with you guys. I'm Miles from the Run in the Paint podcast, going solo once again. So many ridiculous games from last night. There's a ton to get to, so let's honestly get right into it. Let's start with the first game of the night. Battle between two Eastern Conference playoff hopefuls this season, the Indiana Pacers and the Orlando Magic battling it out once again. And this was a defensive-minded battle that the Pacers kind of had control of over the first 2 to 3 quarters in this game. But in the fourth quarter, it was the Orlando Magic that completely stifled the Pacers on both ends of the floor. And the Magic end up winning this one 94-90. For their, I believe, their fourth straight win, putting them at 7-6 on the season without Paolo Banchero for those 4 victories coming at home, of course, has certainly helped. But the Magic, another victory for them against the Pacers. This is their second victory over them this season. Main thing to really highlight from this game was that the fourth quarter defensively for the Orlando Magic. As I said, they turned up defensively, so much so that in the fourth quarter, we know the Indiana Pacers are last season a terrific scoring team, kind of been inconsistent this year. They had one made basket in the first 7 minutes and 12 seconds of the fourth quarter. The Indiana Pacers, I'll say it again, had one basket in 7 minutes to start the fourth quarter. And the Magic just blew their lead open after trailing by 2. They led by 12 with 3 minutes to go, and then Benedict Mathurin started going off with threes, free throws, and ones, to get the Pacers back in it at the end. But that start to the fourth quarter was really the difference of this game, and the Magic just getting a fantastic victory on the defensive end. Franz Wagner was very good offensively in this game, having 29 points. He really has done a decent job with Paolo Banchero being out of being that scoring option, stepping up in that role. He didn't shoot the best, had to take a lot of shots to get to his 29 points. But this was a game where points were hard to come by. The Pacers were doing a decent job of their own defensively through the first 3 quarters. But it was the Magic coming out with the victory. Got to give a shout out to Goga Bitadze, who has come in the starting lineup with Wendell Carter out. And his improvement, especially since going to Orlando, what he's able to do on the boards has been so impressive. And being able to just come in when his number is called and just stay prepared is so impressive. He's a guy that isn't always in the main rotation because they got guys like they have Wendell Carter and Mo Wagner as their main center rotation. But Goga Bitadze just does such a good job rebounding. He does a decent job of blocking shots, protecting the rim. Like they're all just solid defenders. So shout out to Goga Bitadze for coming into the start, getting a double-double, 12 points, 12 rebounds. And Jonathan Isaac as well had 3 blocks in this game. Really was a big part of the Magic making that run in the fourth quarter. So nice win for the Orlando Magic in this crazy Eastern Conference. The Magic are now the 3rd seed with a 7-6 record. They're one of 3 teams over 500. It's crazy what the Eastern Conference has been looking like, but right now the Magic playing very well, under their home schedule, this home streak since Paolo Banchero has been out. I'm very curious to see how they will play, going forward. During the schedule while Paolo is still going to be out for a little bit. They have a game on Friday for the NBA Cup. They play the 76ers at home. We'll talk about the Sixers in a little bit. Then they go, and then they have a huge road swing where 9 of their next 11 games after Friday are on the road, including some tough West teams, the Suns, Clippers, Lakers. Then later on in the East, in New York, in Brooklyn, and in Philly when they should theoretically be healthy. So for the Magic, huge for them to be getting these victories while they can. It's important for them to take care of home court advantage. Now 6-0 at home, I believe, one of 3 undefeated home teams remaining in the NBA. So shout out to the Magic. On the Pacers side of things, just inconsistency, man. That's kind of something that's just plagued this team, and specifically for Tyrese Halliburton. Once again, another stinker. offensively. 3 of 14 from the field, 2 of 8 from 3. Did have 11 assists, but offensively, you kind of are relying on, or you're kind of expecting more consistency out of a guy like Halliburton, but instead you're getting it from Siakam, who had a very efficient game in this one. And Benedict Mathurin has been very good off the bench. Like, he's been starting because Aaron Nesmith has been out due to injury, but him coming into the starting lineup has been huge for them because he adds another consistent offensive piece that could just go score. Like, on the season so far, he's averaging 19 points and 6 rebounds per game. He's been incredibly efficient. He's taken over a lot of games this season so far for the Pacers. So it's good to have him back because, of course, he wasn't there in the playoffs last year. They definitely could have used him last season. But just hope that we could see some consistency from Tyrese Halliburton. And even their bench has not been, that great. Their bench is what would kind of extend the pace. Guys like TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin coming in. But overall, good win for the Orlando Magic. Next game, let's go to another super close game. Let's go to the Chicago Bulls and the New York Knicks. And my goodness, this was crazy. The New York Knicks on the second night of a back-to-back, they just beat Philly on Tuesday on the road. They come in to, they come into the Garden and essentially lay an egg for the first 2.5 quarters, you could say. This game was really in Chicago's control for most of the game, including a 22-point lead for the Bulls on the road in the third quarter. And so, on the second night of a back-to-back, it would make sense for the Knicks to come in, look a little tired against this high-paced Chicago team. I mean, New York was kind of a half step slow compared to the Bulls in this game. So, but instead of, falling down here when they went down by 22 points in the third quarter, the Knicks answer with a 17-0 run thanks to Karl Anthony Towns just being ridiculous again in this game. Finished with 46 points, 10 rebounds. And the Knicks had the lead. Back and forth action in the fourth quarter. Karl Anthony Towns went down he hit his head on the back of the stanchion after a drive to the basket in the final minute of the game. So, 46 points in on, some teams he had been in the past, you'd be worried, like, man, Cat goes down with an injury. He's looking a little bit hobbled over here. Where are we going to get the scoring from? And Jalen Brunson, who had been pretty cold and quiet during the game up to this point, made back-to-back huge plays, hit a step-back jumper to over Patrick Williams, then drove inside a beautiful, just a couple crossovers, drive to the rim, and got the roll on that bank shot to give the Knicks a 2-point lead with about 7 seconds remaining. Bulls call for timeout down by 2, and they get a look for Coby White, and he was fouled on a 3-point attempt by Josh Hart. And that is one that Josh Hart, I'm sure, is thinking about all night. Just not a smart play from Josh Hart. We know him to, always give 110% play, his absolute hardest when he's on the floor. But that particular play, just not the smartest. From what I saw, kind of brushed him on the hair, Coby White on the hair as he was shooting. And Coby White stepped up, made all 3 of the free throws to give the Bulls the lead. But the Knicks still had a chance. They had like 4 or 5 seconds left. And Jalen Brunson got a great look on his type of shot, a fadeaway mid-range jumper over Patrick Williams. And oh my goodness, I don't know how the ball didn't go in. It was halfway down, came out. The Bulls held on and won this one, 124-123. Absolutely unreal that that Jalen Brunson shot did not go down, and the Knicks lose this heartbreaker to the Chicago Bulls. In a game where you see the numbers there for both teams. I mean, this was a night where we had so many ridiculous individual performances, but for Chicago, Zach LaVine with 31 points, 7 boards, 8 assists, only missed 5 shots. He's looked so good this season. I mean, he and Vucevic, I was saying it a lot. I've been saying it, about the Bulls, how I expected that to start the season, LaVine and Vucevic, they were going to showcase their value, try to raise their value a little bit so that they could eventually get traded. So far, it's working for both of these guys. LaVine on the season going into this game was averaging 22 points, great efficiency, which is something we didn't see a whole lot last year. Of course, he was injured. And then Vucevic has taken the time machine back to his Orlando days, putting up 20 and 10 on great efficiency. You know, it's really great what the Bulls have been able to do so far. I think this is kind of what they've been hoping to do. And who knows? I mean, maybe they will try to go for another play-in spot. I don't know. I hope they don't do that, but Kobe White has looked very good. Josh Giddey's threes have been going down. Patrick Williams had 18 points, 6 boards in this game. His defense was okay in this one. He did a great job at the end of the game on Jalen Brunson. Brunson's just a ridiculous player, especially late when they needed him to step up. But yeah, man, for the Knicks, it's just tough. I mean, second night of a back-to-back, you kind of give them a little bit of a pass on that, especially playing this completely limited rotation where it's basically 6-7 guys. Kind of extended to 9 the last few games, throwing in newly signed sharpshooter Matt Ryan, who hasn't played a whole lot so far. Got to give a shout out to Cameron Payne. He was a huge part, along with Karl-Anthony Towns, on why the Knicks were able to come back in this one and make this a game. So credit to both these teams. This was a fantastic game in the fourth quarter. Highly recommend that you watch this fourth quarter if you didn't get a chance to see it. Because really either of these teams could have come out with the victory. It's just shocking so far. The Knicks now 5-6. They're a game under 500. The Bulls up now 5-7. You know, still under 500, but playing some decent basketball. Again, playing at that much higher, much faster pace. So shout out to the Bulls for getting the win. Knicks, they'll be fine. They'll be fine going forward. It's just still taking a little bit of time for them to kind of figure out, Karl-Anthony Towns being their center, how that works defensively. Bunch of new pieces on that team, limited rotation, and second night of a back-to-back. Couple more games in the Eastern Conference that we can quickly go over. The Boston Celtics blow out the Brooklyn Nets 139-114 to get their 10th win of the season. Jason Tatum, a fantastic performance. 1 rebound shy of a triple-double in this one. He was efficient. Peyton Pritchard was great off the bench. The Celtics just keep on doing their thing. This regular season, I don't think means a whole lot to them. Whether they win or lose, it's not going to change how any of us really view them going forward. But just a great performance by the Celtics to go in and beat a pesky Nets team who has been stealing some wins from some good teams so far this season. Another Eastern Conference game, the Cleveland Cavaliers went into Philadelphia, also on a second night of a back-to-back. So no Paul George, no Joel Embiid in this one. Tyrese Maxey already out. So the Cavs, it took a lot of work. The Sixers were playing well, but the Cavs were able to get their 13th win in a row to start the season, 114-106. Still is ridiculous to see 13-0 on any team, let alone my favorite team, the Cavaliers. They're now the sixth team ever, I believe, to start 13-0, and this ties a franchise record for the longest winning streak. I believe I saw that stat earlier as well. So good win for the Cavaliers. Something that hasn't really been, I feel like, emphasized enough with this Cavs team is just the workload that they've had so far this season. Like, you look at the teams in the NBA, teams are now starting to catch up with them in games played, but Cleveland has played 13 games in like 21, 22 days. Well, actually, today was Wednesday, so 21 days because they started the season on Wednesday. So they've played 13 games in 21 days. They have not had multiple days of rest, and they've still won all of their games. It's been extremely impressive. We've talked about them a whole lot. They've been one of the big stories of the NBA. Donovan Mitchell was 1 assist from his first career triple-double. Got a little greedy there at the end, tried to get an assist. Ended up being a turnover. So he just ended up taking over the game. It was kind of one of those weird games where none of the shots for the Cavs were going down in the first half. Darius Garland had a great third quarter, was getting to the basket, and they were able to hold the fort well enough. He was Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen with finishes inside. They were able to hold the fort while Donovan Mitchell was having a pretty off game shooting till we got to the fourth quarter, and Donovan Mitchell had 11 points in like 95 seconds to seal the deal for the Cavs to get their 13th win. On the Sixers side of things, Jared McCain, man, this rookie, he has been awesome so far. Had 34 points and 10 assists in this game in his first career start. Coming in, just firing away, 6 of 13 from 3. He looked extremely confident out there. And I'll tell you, not a whole lot of bright spots so far for the 76ers, of course, with the record and, all the injuries and all that, and them starting off from behind here when they're going to have to try to make a playoff push in the Eastern Conference. But Jared McCain has been the bright spot for this team. I mean, his numbers have been extremely impressive, what he's been able to do. You see this game that he had right here, having, all those points and the playmaking as well. Gives me slight flashbacks to Tyrese Maxey when he was a rookie. He didn't put up that crazy numbers his rookie season. He really started to take off that next year, and now we know he's a all-star player, one of the top guards in the league. But in his rookie season, there was a game. This was 2020, 2021. So this was the year after COVID, when there were a bunch of when the COVID protocol was really intact and players would miss games, due to COVID, due to quarantine. So in a game early in the season, this was game number 10 for the 76ers. It was against the Denver Nuggets, and the Sixers had a bunch of players out for COVID. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid in this game. So the rookie Tyrese Maxey in his 10th game had 39 points, 7 boards, 6 assists, took a lot of shots, took 33 shots. They lost the game, but had early experience of playing a ton of minutes against high-level NBA competition. This is against a healthy Denver Nuggets team at the time. And just getting buckets, getting some experience as a lead scorer. And, we saw what happened for Tyrese Maxey. Not saying that that's going to be what happens to Jared McCain, but I think that's definitely good that he was able to get this early experience and play well. Like, he was confident out there. He did not look tentative at all. He was not scared of the Cavs, great defenders that they had over there. And he made some nice shots as well. So for the Sixers, there is definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. And, Embiid and George, they'll be back. They'll be back next game. I mean, this was just a back-to-back, so they weren't in this. But who knows? Embiid did say that, he is a troll, so maybe he will play in some back-to-backs down the line. Final Eastern Conference game. Oh, my goodness. This was a beauty. This was unbelievable. The Detroit Pistons versus the Milwaukee Bucks. This was something else, man. There's so much to talk about from this game. First, to start, the Pistons got out to a pretty big lead in the first half, and the Bucks, no one else did anything besides Giannis. Giannis had 20 of the first 22 points for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I want to see what the first quarter score was in this game. 27-24. So Giannis had 20 in the first quarter. And this was a game where everything was working for him. We've heard it all the time throughout Giannis's career. Like, man, if he gets a jump shot, it's over. This was a game where everything was going. His jumper was falling. His free throws, he was 16 for 17 at the line. He finished the game with 59 points. Had 14 rebounds, 7 assists, but really didn't get a lot of help for the first half of the game. Was able to get some more later on. Brook Lopez was huge on both ends in this game. That was really needed without Damian Lillard with the concussion protocol. But anyways, down the stretch of this game, Giannis is doing his thing. He's going to the basket. He's finishing. He's getting to the free throw line. He's making his free throws. Even hit a 3 in this game. He's hitting the mid-range pull-up when the Pistons are sagging off. Really keeping this Bucks team in the game on his back against a Pistons team who's been playing very well. Cade Cunningham had 35, 7, and 11 in this one. Malik Beasley, 26 points, hit 8 threes. Finally was able to get some shots to go down. And on the second night of a back-to-back themselves, the Pistons have been in some crazy finishes. You just heard me talk about it last night with Eric Spoelstra getting the technical and giving the Pistons the win off that one. But in the fourth quarter of this game, I want to make sure I get the plays correct here because this really was unbelievable. Yeah, man. So in the fourth quarter, we're at about a minute to go here, a minute remaining. And something that Giannis did was after he had it going, for a while, he was making his layups, had made some and ones, was feeding it off to, Andre Jackson in the paint. Back-to-back plays, he started trusting his other guys to try to make some plays. Back-to-back plays where he gave it to Taurean Prince, who drove in for a layup, and gave it to Taurean Prince for a spot-up 3, which he nailed. And Taurean Prince, if there's anything he's been doing well this season, it's been knocking down threes. So the Bucks had a 3-point lead with about 50 seconds remaining, and the Pistons couldn't get anything to go offensively on this possession. The Bucks were playing great defense, which is something they've not been doing a lot over the last couple of years. They were playing great defense, and Marcus Sasser was good last year, hasn't gotten a whole lot of opportunity this year, made a clutch three-pointer at the end of the shot clock to tie the game. It was incredible, this play. It was like a double clutch three. He had to pump fake and just throw up a wild shot, and it was a perfect swish to tie the game with 26 seconds to go, which left like a 1 to 2 second differential between shot clock and game clock. So Bucks just give the ball to Giannis. Giannis drives down the lane. They go to Taurean Prince in the corner for another three. He just made his last shot, missed it. Pistons had the rebound. They had 1.2 seconds in the front court, and JB Bickerstaff runs the same play that he ran in the Miami Heat game, except instead of Jalen Duren, it's the youngster Ron Holland, who had a clear opening and missed the layup because Giannis fouled him on the hand. I didn't think it was much of a foul. Honestly, I didn't really see the contact on the hand. Even the Pistons announcers, they didn't know what was going on when the officials were reviewing this play because it didn't really look like a foul, but they did call a foul on Giannis there on the Ron Holland layup alley-oop attempt. Unbelievable that back-to-back games, they run the same play at the end just for different players, and it works. It works. The first game, they get a layup, or they get an alley-oop dunk for Jalen Duren. This game, they get free throws. But unfortunately, the youngster, Ron Holland, the pressure got to him, man. He missed both of the free throws. This game ends up going to overtime, and I think the Pistons were a little bit shell-shocked after they had that chance. Ron Holland missed the free throws, and Giannis and Brook Lopez on both ends of the floor were seeking blood in overtime. They scored the first 8 points. And usually I always say whoever forces the first time out of overtime is usually going to win. And that was the case in this one once again, man. Giannis finishing with 59 points as the Bucks win in overtime, 127-120. Just an incredible game. This is another one I would highly recommend watching the final minute of this game, or the final minute of regulation and then overtime, because this was just absurd. And even the whole Giannis game, I mean, 59 points, the highest scored in any game so far this season. And even Brook Lopez hit some huge trailing three-point shots, which is obviously huge when he has his three-point shot going. It hasn't really gone down a lot this season, but they were both able to get it, going tonight, man. It's just crazy. This is a tough loss for the Pistons. They've been in so many close games. This one just didn't go their way, man. They just didn't go their way. And Ron Holland, that's going to be something he'll remember. Those two free throws, missing them. First one wasn't even close. So that's just something they'll take for future. They played a great game against a Bucks team that was desperate for a victory. And man, for the Bucks, they got 88 combined points between Giannis and Brook. That's got to be one of the highest combined scoring games by a duo in the last few years. I mean, 88 points between two players is absurd. And yeah, man, just a big win for the Bucks. If they lost to this Pistons team, even though the Pistons have been scrappy, I mean, just give the season up if you're the Bucks. They needed all the wins that they can get right now. And I mean, kudos to both Giannis and Brook for this game, because that's something that one of the Pistons announcers mentioned. And I agree with this. With Damian Lillard being out, Giannis was able to account for his scoring and Dame's scoring that they lost. Like, Giannis is averaging like 30 on the season going into this game. Dame's at like 27, 28. And Giannis combines for 59 when they average 59 combined this. Like, he was able to make up for that scoring, and Brook had the 29 points. So they were able to make up for the scoring. It's really incredible when you put it that way. And just a huge win for the Bucks. Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will take a look at the Western Conference games from the night. So stay tuned right after this. All right, now let's go to the Western Conference side of things for some results from last night. First, the OKC Thunder picked up their 10th win of the season, defeating the injury-riddled Pelicans 106-88. Again, not a whole lot for me to really say about this game. The Thunder just keep on doing their thing, man. Even with some guys injured on their side too. Their three best centers. They had J-Dub, not Jalen Williams. J-Will, I guess is his nickname. They had him starting at the 5. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was like the tallest player in the starting lineup, and he's their point guard. But they were able to just, continue playing super well, defensively, man. And I know the Pelicans are incredibly injury riddled as well. They're just trying to get by, man. It's just so tough for them. They're now 3-9 on the season, 6-game losing streak, losing some ground, man, in this Western Conference and on a team that is extremely talented. It just sucks that they have so many injuries that they have to deal with. But OKC, another good victory, going up against a team that is, very injured. Shout out to Brandon Ingram. Yves Missi continues to play, some solid ball in his rookie season. I mean, for anything, it's good for those guys to get opportunities like Missi, Jordan Hawkins, who he's even been injured. Brandon Boston had 10 rebounds in this game, has hit some tough shots so far in his time with the Pelicans. So OKC becomes the first Western Conference team to pick up their 10th victory of the season. Next Western Conference game, the San Antonio Spurs defeat the Washington Wizards 139-130. And yep, you see that right. Victor Wembanyama had 50, the first 50-point game of probably many of his career. Hit 8 threes, 18 of 29 from the field. Most of his 50 points came from jump shots. And man, it's just ridiculous to see a guy his size knocking down the threes. Because like last year and to start this season, he has not been making them. He was not making them at a good clip. His shooting splits have been pretty bad. Before this last like 3-4 game stretch. But this is his third straight game with at least 6 threes, making 8 threes in this one, hit 6 in his previous 2 games each. With the blocked shots as well. It's just absurd what he's able to do. He was able to mitigate a pool party in the fourth quarter. The Wizards tried to get back into this after Wemby went for 50. Now the Spurs at 500. It's 6-6 on the season. So they're for as much talk as I've given them about probably being on the lower end of the Western Conference and other team and them probably it should be a priority for them to not really make the play-in or anything like that. They're still hanging in there, man, and they got a decent squad. Devin Vassell just recently came back. Jeremy Sohan, when he gets back from injury, they'll have a full squad, and he's been playing some very good basketball as well. So shout out to the Spurs, man, and shout out to Jordan Poole for having the pool party and the poor Frenchman over there in Washington, Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly, having to watch Wemby just go off on them like this. It really was incredible. Next game, the Houston Rockets taking on the LA Clippers 111-103. And man, Houston Rockets, for me, this was a 3-man show in this one. It was Amen Thompson and Tari Eason. Look, off the bench, there are not a lot of teams in the NBA where you could make cases where the bench unit is better than the starting unit. And I feel like there are some games, this was one of the cases, where the bench was better than the starters. Just because those 2 guys I just mentioned, Thompson and Eason, just come in with so much energy, so much athleticism. The defense is fantastic from Amen Thompson. Jackson, our boy Jackson on the podcast, he's a huge Houston Rockets fan. And he says Amen Thompson has the potential to be a generational type defender. You see games like this and you see what he can do offensively, it kind of makes sense. I mean, the Rockets had 3 players with double-doubles, Thompson and Eason both off the bench with 18 and 10, 11 rebounds. And those 2 guys off the bench, they just make such a huge difference. They're able to play at 2 different paces because of what they can do off the bench. And you begin to wonder, if it keeps going like this, where the bench players are kind of increasing the pace and playing a lot better than the starters, if a guy like Tari Eason or Amin Thompson eventually enter that starting lineup for a guy like Jabari Smith, who hasn't really been used the best in that starting lineup. Something interesting to look out for. I'd be curious to hear Jackson's thoughts on that. I'll ask him actually on the podcast. That'll be out tomorrow or Friday morning. Yeah, tomorrow morning. So definitely check that one out because we'll talk with Jackson about that for sure with the Houston Rockets. On the Clipper side of things, James Harden back in Houston, man, had 19 points. Really had his water shut off after the first quarter. I believe had 12 of his 19 in the first quarter. The Clippers, a lot of their guys have been playing heavy minutes. So for the most of the second half and in the fourth quarter, Ty Lue kind of rode the bench. And they played well, man. There were some guys that played some, decent minutes off the bench, to try to combat the Rockets. But in the end, it was Alperen Şengün in the final minute with a monster slam dunk and then a block at the other end that was able to seal the deal for the Houston Rockets. And I'll tell you what, the Rockets, we talk about them a decent bit on the podcast because Jackson's obviously a huge fan of the Rockets, but they've got to be a team that's good that no one talks about. Like, I don't know how many people recognize that this team is 8-4 now, 4 games over 500 for this young squad is no joke. They've been playing some really good basketball, and they're a super fun watch too. Highly recommend watching the Rockets play. And with all the talent that they have and the versatility and ability to just play a bunch of different ways, the Rockets are definitely going to have a chance this season, and they're off to a very, very good start. So shout out to the Houston Rockets. Got to give them their flowers because I'm not sure who else will. I seriously think that the Rockets are the good team that no one is talking about. So shout out to the Rockets, man, doing their thing to start the season. 3 more games to talk about. The Portland Trailblazers taking down the Minnesota Timberwolves for the second straight game. They just did it last night, or 2 nights ago in the NBA Cup. 106-98, the final score. Once again, it was the defense of the Portland Trailblazers, specifically Donovan Clingan, the rookie, who had 8 blocks, 17 points, 13 rebounds, and 8 blocks for Donovan Clingan. Set a Blazers rookie record for most blocks in a game. That's got to be the most blocks for a rookie. Well, I mean, Wemby and Chet existed last year. So besides them, I would assume, Clingan's got to be up there for that type of record because he was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, 2 straight games. The game on a Tuesday, it was Robert Williams. This game, it was Donovan Clingan. DeAndre Ayton is a double-double machine. So they just got so many big guys. It'll be interesting to see who they will prioritize going forward in their rebuild. But even going along with that, a guy like Shaedon Sharpe, yeah, he looked great. I mean, tonight, I believe this was his career high, I think, 31 points. Or 33 points, excuse me. Cut him short on 2 points. Just looking fantastic out there, man. Taking it to the basket, hitting some threes. And the defense. I mean, the Blazers just have so many good defenders. This is why I was a little high on them coming into the season. I think that they definitely could still be a bit of a sneaky team here just because of all the versatile players that they have on this team. And they even got this win. I mentioned Ayton didn't play. Simons got injured at the beginning of the last game. And Rob Williams didn't play in this game because it was a second night of a back-to-back. So they just got so many talented players. I'm excited to see what the Blazers are going to do moving forward. And for the Timberwolves side of things, they just couldn't get their shots to go down in this game. We mentioned the defense for the Blazers. But Minnesota, 7 for 39 from 3. I mean, that's just not really going to cut it in a lot of games. Anthony Edwards, 0 for 9 from 3. Naz Reid, 2 for 8. DiVincenzo, 0 for 6. Randall and McDaniels combined for 1 for 6. They don't even get a whole lot up, excuse me. They tried to get an offensive boost by putting in the rookie Rob Dillingham. Hasn't played a whole lot this season. Had 3 turnovers in his 9 minutes, was a -13. He did not look ready to be playing some real NBA minutes out there. So Minnesota, just weird start to the season. It's kind of interesting. Both of the teams that lost in the conference finals last year, Minnesota in the West, Indiana in the East, kind of a struggle to find that consistency. Because, I mean, Minnesota, just a couple of weeks ago, they beat Denver on that great comeback. They've had some really good wins, and then you lose back-to-back to the Blazers, which just should, I like the Blazers, but that just should not be happening. Now the Wolves are back to 500 here. So just a bit of a weird start for the Timberwolves so far this season. Last two games, the Sacramento Kings and the Phoenix Suns. The Kings blew out the Suns 127-104. Phoenix did not have Kevin Durant. Obviously, he's been out. And Bradley Beal also missed this game. So kind of offensively, it was kind of hard for the Suns to really figure some things out. Booker was 6 for 16. It was Josh Okogie off the bench who led them in scoring. The Kings just looked really good defensively. They really blew the game open in the second half. This was a game that I believe was tied at halftime. I was really into this game. I was watching this one. Sacramento had like a 15-point lead in the second quarter, and I want to say the Suns went on like a 15-0 run to close the half to like tie the game. And they eventually had a lead in the third quarter before the Kings just completely blew the game open, led by as many as 26 in this one and getting, the big victory. And I think something that was really encouraging in this game for the Sacramento Kings was that their other guys started to get it going, besides Fox, Sabonis, and DeRozan. DeRozan only took 2 shots in this game. He had the first 2 points of the game for either team. That was all he really did offensively in this game. Had 3 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. But, Keegan Murray, Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, those are 3 guys that are huge for this team or have been huge for this team the last couple seasons. And so far, they've been getting off to some pretty slow starts. It was kind of just Fox, Sabonis, and DeRozan were all playing great. It was all spread out very, very well, which is great. I think that's probably the way that Kings fans would want the season to start. Make sure that, you bring in another All-Star, you bring in DeRozan, make sure that all 3 of these guys are acclimated, playing well, they're sharing the ball, they're all getting their touches, they're all getting their shots. Now that we're, over 10 games in, let's try to get some of these other guys involved. And that's exactly what they did in this one. Keegan Murray went 7 for 11, had 17 points, hit 3 threes. Kevin Huerter took 16 shots. Like, DeRozan only had 2 shot attempts. Sabonis had 4 shot attempts. 3 of them were threes, wide open looks, and he knocked down all of them. Fox took over in the third quarter, had 29 points. For the game, had 10 assists as well. He's been great with playmaking as well. But huge in this next stretch and for the rest of the season for the other guys on Sacramento to really get it going, because I think that this team can be extremely dangerous. I mean, they've been playing some great basketball to start the season. Even a lot of their losses have been in extremely close situations that just didn't go their way in the end. But overall, it's been a great start to the year for Sacramento. And I just think that it's going to be a key thing to get those other guys going, because that Sabonis, even if he's not, shooting the ball's going to be in his hands a lot. So he's always going to be in the offense, obviously playmaking, rebounding. Something that has been kind of off for him the last few games is turnovers. He does need to do a better job of taking care of the basketball. But, he's going to be involved. He's going to get it off to Fox and DeRozan for their handoff, pick and roll plays. He's going to get it to Huerter and Murray. It's just on whether or not Huerter and Murray can hit the shots. And this game, specifically Huerter, got a lot of layups, shots right at the basket, which I think is huge for him, because we know him to be a big 3-point shooter, but hasn't really gone down to start the season. Good to see some inside buckets going for him now. That should eventually get him going on the outside, because that's kind of how you kind of want to play, going inside out. That's kind of how not many teams really play anymore, but Sacramento definitely one of those old school teams that definitely do that. And then the final game in the Western Conference, the LA Lakers taking on the Memphis Grizzlies 128-123. Game that was a lot closer than I expected. The Grizzlies without Ja Morant, without Desmond Bane. Did have Jaren Jackson, who played a very good game. They just do a great job of getting contributions from so many guys in the lineup. But in the end, LeBron had a masterpiece. Oh my goodness. His 3rd straight triple-double with 35 points. He was ridiculous in this game. He was knocking down threes in the first half. He was getting dunks in the second half. He had 14 assists. He was making plays to his shooters. Anthony Davis had a couple threes in the fourth quarter. Dalton Connect was a huge X factor in this one. Went 5 for 5 from 3 and got a lot of those shots going in when the Grizzlies started to pull away. So the Lakers started out, they had a 15-point lead. Then the Grizzlies had an 8-point lead in the third quarter. And I was starting to get, a little worried here, man. Started to get a little worried, that the Lakers would lose this one. But Dalton Connect got it going. That got the Lakers back in it. And in the end, LeBron and AD is too much to take on. Jaren Jackson, Scottie Pippen Jr. Marcus Smart was back in this one. This was, I want to say, his first or second game of the season. Had 15.6 assists in this one. He looked good, man. He looked good. He's going to be a big piece for them going forward. Just having 4 guys off the bench in double-figure scoring. Zach Edey's been looking decent. It should say a lot that I think maybe yesterday on the NBA app, there was the Rookie of the Year ladder, and the top 2 players were Memphis Grizzlies players. It was Zach Edey at number 2 and Jalen Wells at number 1, who's been starting at the 2 guard a lot. And then you got a guy like Scottie Pippen Jr. starting at the point during this stretch. This Grizzlies team, man, it's kind of like the Sixers, but they're winning the games, if I want to say. Even though they lose this one, the Grizzlies are getting contributions from so many guys while Morant and Bane are out, which is going to only help them moving forward, that all these guys are, getting the minutes. And then even players that are also out, Bane obviously out, but even a guy like Vince Williams was in this situation of a Jalen Wells last year, a guy who got a lot of minutes last year on an injured team, injured again. Gigi Jackson's also, they just have so many injuries, and their guys are kind of stepping up in their roles. Brendan Clark also, my goodness. Grizzlies just have a lot of players, man. When they get healthy, they should definitely be scary. But good win for the Lakers, man. Continue to stay undefeated at home, 6-0 at home so far this season, and getting great games from LeBron. Solid from Anthony Davis, good defensively, but important, again, to get that third guy in there with LeBron and AD, especially when LeBron is playing like this, because, we've already seen it. We don't know how many more nights of this we're going to get. They're kind of sporadic at this point. You maybe get it once every 7 or so games, once every 5-6 games. So just important for the Lakers, other guys, to get it going and be a little bit more consistent. They definitely have since coming home. I think the Lakers could potentially be one of those teams where they're awesome at home and just kind of rough on the road, because that's kind of what we saw. They're now, I want to say, 6-0 at home and 1-4 on the road when they had that road trip. So I believe they have a couple road games coming up next on their schedule here. So it's going to be important for them to try to make sure that this play at home, where they've been playing well on both ends of the floor, where it can travel with them past LA. They have two road games against the Spurs in the NBA Cup and in New Orleans. That should definitely be a win. But, later in the season, when they have, some long stretches on the road, they've got a lot of road trips in the second half of the season. It's going to be important for them to, come away with victories on that end. So there's a look at all your scores from last night. I know we're 45 minutes, and this is one of the longer recaps, but so much to talk about from last night. We're going to take one more break, and when we come back, we're going to get into the MVP of the night and the schedule for tonight and tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. I'll be right back after this. All right, now let's get into the player of the night. And like I said, so many candidates for this. You could take one or two guys from a lot of these games and say that they've got a chance. We had a couple 50-point games, some triple doubles, some huge highlight individual plays. But let me know in the comments who you think the player of the night is. In the end, there are so many choices, as I already said. I ended up giving it to Giannis for his 59, 14, and 7 game, just because this was a game that the Bucks really needed in overtime against the Pistons. And for the fact that, like I said when we were talking about this game, this is one of those games where Giannis, we talk about, man, if Giannis has the jumper going, he's unstoppable. It was on full display last night against the Pistons. So just a great performance by the Greek Freak in that one. Let me know again who you think the player of the night is. I know Wemby stands out there with his first 50-point game. We'll want to say Wemby. LeBron having that monster triple-double is huge. There were some other great ones out there as well that we already touched on. Just let me know in the comments down below. I always love to hear what you guys think. Now, before we get out of here, let's take a look at the schedule for the next 2 days. Because tonight, because of all the games last night, there's only one game tonight. Interesting quirk in the schedule. The Dallas Mavericks visiting the Utah Jazz, the lone game of the day tonight. That'll be 9 p.m. on NBA TV. Utah will be wearing their city jerseys, those beautiful Purple Mountain jerseys. Cannot wait to see those for the first time this season. But now let's just take a look at Friday's NBA Cup schedule, because Friday the NBA Cup returns. I won't do a recap video tonight for one game. There will be the podcast going on. We can detail that a little bit. But let's take a look at the schedule for Friday's NBA Cup action. First on League Pass, 10 games going on NBA League Pass, and obviously all these are huge for the NBA Cup. Miami, Indiana, that's gonna be a big one, especially with Miami losing that one to Detroit. Even though that was only a 2-point loss for Miami in the end of things. So if they can get a big win in Indiana against the Pacers, that could definitely help them out as well. Cleveland will be looking for their 14th straight victory. Washington, Atlanta. Man, Washington's already beaten Atlanta twice. So we'll see if Atlanta can try to bounce back after they just beat Boston in Boston without Trae Young. Phoenix, OKC. That should be an interesting game for sure. I'd probably go OKC in that one. We'll see if Beal's back though, because that'll certainly make things interesting. Clippers, Rockets again, and Wolves, Kings. Those are two fun games at the bottom of the schedule there for League Pass. Definitely will be checking those ones out. But then the two national games on ESPN, since it's a Friday. First at 7:30, Lakers at Spurs. LeBron versus Wemby for the first time this season. That at 7:30 in San Antonio. Definitely make sure to tune in for this one. Wemby coming off of his first career 50-point game, and LeBron with another triple-double, his third straight triple-double with 35 points from last night. And then the nightcap, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors. And hopefully Ja Morant can be back to play in this game, because I would love to see the Grizzlies be semi-healthy for this one, because these are two teams that love playing against each other, especially Draymond Green. He loves playing the Grizzlies. A little bit of a rivalry there. But that's the nightcap for sure. Check out those games. Again, those are all the games going on Friday night. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, no recap tomorrow morning, but we will have the podcast out. We will record the full podcast later today, so make sure to check that out. We'll go into full depth on the NBA Cup so far, some of the big storylines so far this season that we're not able to touch in the recaps. So stay tuned for that. I will do a recap on Friday night, which will be out on Saturday morning, to go over those NBA Cup games. So stay tuned for that. Absolutely. If you guys enjoy the video, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Again, leave a comment with your thoughts on all these crazy games from last night. NBA season is back in full force and in full flesh, and I am loving it. Hope you guys are loving it as well. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.